Hey everybody, it's Brady from the Weather Forecast, and tonight I'm going to be doing a video update on what is our bomb cyclone slash nor'easter, which is going to make a big impact. Already is producing heavy rainfall for many folks in the northeast, but also will be producing some pretty big time wind tomorrow as well, along with the risk for coastal flooding. So this is something we will have to watch, and also could potentially become somewhat tropical. Already showing a couple of tropical characteristics already this evening, but could potentially become uh, one of our storms towards the end of the alphabet, which would be Wanda, is the storm name next in line. So that will be something we'll have to watch. But without further ado, let's get started. We can see here on satellite we got some bursting convection, minus 60 to minus 70 degree cloud tops that are starting to really get going here as we're around midnight currently in Tuesday morning. So we got our big storm system. We have our trough associated with it, and then we have this big wraparound as we switch over to 500 millibar. Here we have our vorticity. We kind of see our confluence to the north, and then we also have our initial piece of energy, and now this secondary piece of energy is starting to take over, and we're starting to see a coastal low pressure system transfer right here, where this is going to get a little bit wrapped in. We're going to see some pretty significant cyclogenesis take place as we're looking at potentially a big time bomb cyclone. And basically all these words, if you're a little confused right now, mean there's a lot of ingredients in place for the storm to increase its strength pretty quickly. I suspect by tomorrow morning we could be looking at storm in around the 980 millibars in pressure. It's currently likely around the mid to upper 990 millibar range. So at another maybe 6 to 8 hours, this thing could be in the 980 millibar range, and then at another 6 to 8 hours, this thing might be in the low 970s. So this is definitely going to be a potent low pressure system. But this kind of is just a little bit representation. If this were wintertime, I'm sure you've heard that a lot with this storm. If you're aware that this pretty classic setup, this would be for a big time winter storm, regardless if it's interior snow or a little bit more closer to the coast. At this point, it would look like maybe be a little bit more of a rain snow line if it were, but that's not a problem right now. We're looking at right now, it's too warm for any of that to worry about any of that. So we'll take a look here. This is a map of the eastern half of the United States in the GFS. We'll switch here. We'll switch to the HRR. Will this go out all the way as far as I want? No, it won't. So we're going to go to the 0Z HRR model, the HER model, or the HRRR, however you want to call it. We can see here currently at around, let's see, yep, has around a 997, 995 millibar projection forecast for around this time. HR kind of aligning with what I was thinking would be playing out. We can see we have the heavy rainfall happening across the northeast tonight and even into the mid-Atlantic, as we had a bit of a severe setup with some stronger damaging wind gusts today happen across Virginia, North Carolina, and even a couple tornadoes I believe we also had down in North Carolina and Virginia area today as well. But we're going to see a line of showers and thunderstorms move up through southern New England tonight. That's produced a lot of lightning actually offshore and even into around the New York City area and up into New York and New Jersey. We saw a lot of lightning tonight. That's just associated. We're watching the transfer of energy take place, and as it's happening, we're watching both of these. I guess where they're almost like separate systems. They're not going to be. But producing their own little problems in different ways, and that's flash flooding, and that's all connected of one bigger picture right here. As we're going to see this, it almost looks like two different things coming one together, and that's kind of what we're going to see. And it's going to retrograde. Actually, we're going to watch this low pressure system throughout the day tomorrow. It's going to almost look like it's going to go out to sea if this were a hurricane. But nope, it's going to pinwheel around this upper level low. It's going to come right into the coast, and it's going to retrograde, and that's where we're going to see our problems in terms of wind. So if we zoom out a little bit, I was talking about our confluence and our different pieces of energy. So we look here, we're not going to get that on the HRR, but we will get this on the NAM at 500 millibar vorticity. So what we're looking for is, our current picture looks a little bit like this, as I mentioned. We have our one piece of energy right here over the Ohio Valley, and then we have another over the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley, and then we have another piece of energy, and we'll zoom fast forward a little bit because that's what it looks like more right now. We have another piece of energy offshore that was, we can see being depicted here. Right, we have that piece of energy, we have this piece of energy here, and then another piece of energy here, and then we're starting to see coastal transfer take place. So imagine we have the confluence to the north, like I mentioned, just like you can see here too. See that right around Maine, and as we're watching this take place, we're going to see this almost like it's going to pinwheel as, well, it is going to pinwheel, just like an upper level low. So this is kind of carry out a little bit, and then we're going to watch some movement shift back to the west. Almost imagine like a storm like Sandy. We're going to be looking at that kind of movement to the west. I shouldn't have said a storm like Sandy because that's not what I was trying to say, but imagine a movement like Sandy back to the west in terms of its storm movement. And we're going to be looking for that to allow that wind to stay for a longer period of time, and that's also going to cause more problems in terms of tidal cycles. Luckily, we are at a low tidal cycle right now in terms of the current time period right now, where the moon, the sun, and the earth are all set up right now. But luckily that's good news, or else we'd have some major problems. We're still going to have some pretty significant problems in terms of big time waves, etc. But it could be worse in terms of wave in terms of storm tide. Yes, storm tide was the word I was looking for. But we're going to see here and watch how it kind of wraps around. We're watching a transfer of energy take place, and then all becomes more of one system. We're going to see this the low pressure system kind of consolidate here just offshore of Cape Cod and potentially. It might be a little bit closer. NAM is still one of the more easterly solutions, but we see this kind of just stall out, and that's going to allow for a prolonged period of wind, rain, and strong wave action for the coastal sections. And we're also going to be looking at flash flooding, like I mentioned, that's happening a little bit already tonight across places like New York and New Jersey. And if I zoom in even further, we'll get a better idea. HRR, thank you. 0Z. Boom, right? We have that flooding going on right now in terms of places in New York and New Jersey. But then we're also going to see more rainfall take place tomorrow. And it's gonna rain a lot, likely all day tomorrow. There's going to be at least on and off periods of heavier rain and precip, and then pretty consistent precipitation, it seems like, tomorrow evening into tomorrow night for many places in southern New England and portions of the Northeast. Lots of the Northeast tomorrow will be pretty rainy, and then it will consolidate more over southern New England and New York and New Jersey in terms of where the heaviest precipitation could be. And I never want to get off track here, but the WPC is highlighting an area for heavier precipitation. We can see we have a slight risk for excessive rainfall tomorrow. So there is no moderate risk currently, which I could see them adding that potentially. But good news is for now that we're not looking at it. Yes. Boom. Day 2. Days 1 through 3. That's kind of a look at the precipitation, what we're going to be dealing with. Potentially anywhere from, I think, 2 to 4 to even areas of 3 to 6 plus inches of rainfall will be possible across a lot of southern New England. I think in general 1 to 3 inches is a good bet for many places in southern New England and across New York City, New Jersey, and eastern Pennsylvania. But I think also the potential for greater than 3 to 6 inches and beyond that is also possible. So those are like also another threat with this storm is going to be that heavy rainfall, because you add that heavy rainfall and that strong wind, then you have to worry about trees falling down even more already than what the regular wind could just do. So these are problems, and plus add a record wet summer for many people. The soil's pretty saturated, even though it's been a little bit drier over the past week or so for many folks in the Northeast. But that does not mean that these trees currently healthy or at a healthy state in terms of how susceptible they are to strong wind damage, and that is something I'm concerned with. I think we could be talking about hundreds of thousands of power outages tomorrow night potentially, if we look at a scenario where this storm does not, stay completely too far offshore, which I don't think it will be. So we're gonna have to worry about a lot of power outages, I think, tomorrow night, especially coastal folks. I can almost guarantee that if you live on the coast tomorrow of southern New England, there's a good chance you're gonna lose power, and maybe a little bit less of a shot in southwestern Connecticut, but we're talking anywhere from southeastern Connecticut, Rhode Island, coastal Rhode Island, and coastal Massachusetts. There's a good chance you're gonna see 50 to 70 plus mile per hour wind gusts tomorrow, and some places could even see wind gusts over hurricane force. So that is definitely uh, something that we're going to have to continue to monitor throughout the day tomorrow, because where this low pressure system sets up is going to be really important. But we can see the core. There's a tight core of just like 70 mile per hour like sustained winds with this. So there's going to be some subtropical characteristics and tropical characteristics with the storm, because we can see here it's a pretty tight low pressure system in terms of how concentrated the wind field is, but it's still a large system that has pretty tight isobars outside of that consolidated core. But the closer you get to the core, that's where you're going to get more of that wind damage. And we can see that core goes all the way. It slides around. It pinwheels around the whole coast. That's what makes this HRRR scenario so bad, is it gets everywhere. Just hits everywhere. Southern New England, inland places even seeing 50 to 60 mile per hour gusts. All coastal places of southern New England and Long Island seeing 50 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts, and even down into New Jersey seeing 50 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts, and even to the Delmarva looking at 40 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts down there in this HR scenario, the way it pinwheels. So there's a couple things, and just because it's so broad, it's pinwheeling around an upper level low, and that's allowing for the storm to pull off this retrograde and this weird westward movement that's going to potentially allow it to become subtropical at some point over the next week or so. So there's many complications with this forecast in terms of different scenarios, but I think we can get a general idea that 40 to 60 mile per hour gusts are seeming pretty likely for a lot of areas in southern New England, and even Long Island tomorrow. Maybe even New York City could have to worry about 30 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts tomorrow night as well. So they are definitely going to have to worry about some pretty strong winds. Luckily, there's not as many trees in New York City, but strong winds and heavy rainfall are not going to make for a fun day and fun evening in New York City. I can promise you that. Might want to change your plans up tomorrow in the Northeast if you're planning on doing anything outside. I highly recommend you make sure you have the resources to be prepared for any power outages if you live in southern New England and eastern portions of the Northeast. So that will be something that you should watch for as we go on with this storm. I guess kind of just mumbling, it feels like at this point a little bit, but I hope you're getting the point. This is going to be a pretty serious situation. This is not something you want to take lightly. This is going to be a potent storm system, as I'll update this water vapor feed. We're going to have good transport of moisture that's going to come up, good tropical moisture that's going to come up and feed into the storm and allow it to produce some pretty heavy rainfall tomorrow, and also some strong winds. There's a lot of similarities to a big time winter storm, but the difference is here we're looking at it's late October and it's not late January. That's mainly the main difference. Is it's seasonal right now, and even then we'd be worrying about a rain snow line. So that's kind of what I needed to get off my chest, I guess, to make sure I was able to relay the threats to you all. I hope you all stay safe. Take the storm seriously. Make sure you have the resource to protect to stay safe from power outages tomorrow. Remember, do not put your generator inside your house. That is always a bad idea. Candles, make sure you are watching them always. And make sure you have enough food and water supply for, I guess, at least 3 to 5 days. I would make sure you have enough because the storm could be, you never know, you could be out without power for a couple days sometimes, and you want to make sure you have enough food and water in case it goes to waste and you don't have a refrigerator to use anymore. So, couple tips I highly recommend using when in terms of storm preparation, just in general for hurricanes, but also it's helpful for big wintertime storms and nor'easters like this. So I hope you all have a good night, stay safe, and I hope everyone is recovering well from the tornadoes in Missouri. That is for sure. And I hope everyone on the West Coast is doing okay from that massive other bomb cyclone that got into the 940 millibars. But that is my last outro for the night. Again, stay safe and peace out.